Hi, thanks for joining me today. We're going to be looking at servicing on the Ecosy Plus stoves. Now this will actually cover the vast majority of Purefire, Hampton, Snugs, and the Panoramic models in the range. So we're going to go through a few bits and pieces and hope they help. To begin with, we're going to start with getting the door off. So if you're changing a piece of glass, changing the rope, this could be quite useful to know. So on the modern ones, on the current models, this won't be applicable for some of the older ones. Small little Allen key in here, which we'll undo. Just keeps the actual bottom pin pinched in place. So this will come all the way out. And you can see on there. Just leave that there for now. Flathead screwdriver. Pin goes in, it's got a little head on it. They'll just sometimes have to give it a wiggle. There we go, pops out. Bottom pin's now out. The door will then pull away, it's quite heavy on this model particularly. Pull away, and then it'll drop down. Give it a bit of a wiggle, and then that's the top pin falling out there as well. And that goes in the top here. So you want that in place when you put it back on. So then, if you're changing the glass, just lay it down on its back there, on a piece of cardboard. Undo these little screws here. They've got a little bit of a felt tab underneath just to keep the pressure off. Undo these, take the pane of glass out, pop the new pane of glass in, just making sure the new pane of glass isn't catching on any bits of cast. It's nicely sat on the rope, and the rope seal's all in place. And then put them back in, and then just pinch these back up. If you over tighten these, the glass may eventually go ping fairly shortly after you actually light the stove. So just pinch these back up and the glass in place. And obviously the rope on here is all fine, but if this wasn't, you want to make sure you take the rope off, scrape out all where the excess glue in place was, and then reapply the glue in the chamber here, and then gently press the rope down and then let it dry, and then tape off the ends so they don't fray. Now this is easily, readily available, these parts. We sell the specific glass for each stove, majority is in stock. However, if we didn't have it in stock for any reason, if it's a square piece, many companies online who just cut it to size. It's easy, just give them the dimensions into a little calculator thing they've got on their website and cut it down. But we do sell the glass at a good price for the majority of our units. Same as the rope kits as well, you'll actually have these options to check out. Comes with pretty much a 10mm rope for around here, and then the 6mm one for the glass as well. Comes with a few bits of tabs, and the rope glue required is a little bit of a servicing kit. So that's generally how you do the rope and the glass on the stove. So we'll just push this to one side and then set up the stove itself. So now let's have a look at the inside of the stove and the servicing around that. So let's say, for example, you've got a broken brick and the bricks have corroded away. It is firstly worth noting though that if you do have just a split in the fire bricks, a crack, they don't need replacing. They're still doing their job of protecting the stove. It's really a common misconception that you need to replace the bricks as soon as they're broken. You don't. Pretty much if this base brick splits is effectively like having it at the back with a cut down the middle. It'll just be a slightly wigglier cut. So you only need to replace them if they are fully broken. But let's just start removing this here. So might be a bit less graceful than the last, so excuse that. Log retaining bars. These are all replaceable parts, perishable items. So if you did need them in the future, that's fine. Let's gently take this one out. Vermiculite dust over here a bit. So that's out. So you feel the bricks at the side will just simply drop down and come out. So these are made of vermiculite. As I mentioned, they can break very easily. They're very soft, but they are fully heat resistant. They'll only break if not. But if you do need to replace them again, we do have the vast majority in stock cut to size. However, if you ever lost our number or we didn't have them in stock for any reason, which is unlikely, you can cut them to size anyway. You can buy these boards online, big vermiculite boards, use this as an old template and then cut it with a wood saw or a jigsaw down to size. Really easy to do. Then we take this one out here, which has obviously got the cutout as well. But you find in these stoves, to be honest, especially the ones wood, the base brick will break the quickest. It's because it takes the most brunt of abuse, and the best way to prevent them from breaking is always leave a bed of ash in place. You should never actually really know that your base brick is broken, because there should be a nice layer of ash on there anyway at all times. Now we're going to look at removing the baffle plate as well. So you're going to have to just slot these bricks out of the back here. Should just pop out, there we go. And now, obviously it's nice and clean at the moment, but you might want to wear a pair of gloves when it is dirty and ready. So baffle plate here, this is what you need to access if you're going to clean the chimney. And you simply undo this here. 10mm heads on it and nuts. You can sometimes just need to lift up, just help it move. So what's happening here is, back of the stove here, drilled hole in the back, which a thread then screws into, so that thread will come out as well. And then this nuts and washers go straight into that. So sometimes when you undo these, you might take the thread as well. So when you guide them back up, you want to put the threads back in first, but I'll take them out and we'll see how we get on. So yeah, that's come out with the thread still in place. And that one too. Now if you see here, that's copper grease on there. When you are doing the servicing on this, I would always suggest re-putting some copper grease on there, just to make their removal a little bit easier. So I'm just going to get these washers off for now as well. A little bit fiddly. Pull the stuff forward, there we go. So that's those out. Now let's take the baffle out. It drops down, and then it comes out. And then if we just quickly see back in here, you'll see that's where the threads are screwed into, and they'll actually unscrew as well. You know, there's quite a lot of thread on them, but again, always just put a bit of copper grease on them if you can, just to make their removal in the future a little bit easier. So you've got the baffle plate out for sweeping. Now, when you put it back in, I'll put it there. You always need to make sure this flat seal here is put back in place, otherwise the air gets lost around the stove and the stove won't work properly. So that's directing that air coming in from the back there into here and then through the holes out the baffle. So if this has come off, this is just a standard flat fire rope with adhesive backing to it. So you just see it's on there real tight at the moment, but if it has come off, you can buy this. We've got it as well. We still actually now, we give it to everybody in the rope kit. So if you're in the rope kits and want to do this too, that should come with it, depending on when you're looking at this video. But if not, it's just a few pounds off Amazon, really. Stick it back here and then bolt it back in place. So that's the baffle there. So just put the baffle plate back in off camera. I just think actually it's worth noting, on many models there's a little welded in hook up here. And you need to make sure that when you put the baffle plate back in, you hook it above those and then push it back onto the threads. If it's below it, it will still bolt up, but you'll struggle to get these side bricks back in. So when you are re-putting that in, that's something to consider. And that's about it really for the servicing of the stove. That's most parts, and then everything just goes back in reverse order. I hope that's been helpful. Thank you very much.